After playing Astral Chain, I've really been wondering if Platinum still has it or not. Everyone falters once in a while, but with this studio, tripping has been the norm more than the exception. Even as far back as Bayonetta 1, I sensed certain things in their game design that didn't quite put me at ease. Compared to something like Devil May Cry, it really seemed like the company had great ideas and mechanics, but lost themselves into superficial elements like quick-time events, flashy cinematic moments, and an inconsistent gameplay loop. I don't need to ride a missile for 25 minutes. That sentiment is now not only shared by me, but by the people who also played Bayonetta 3. The consensus is that you come around for Bayonetta, but you spend little time actually playing her, and mostly a menagerie of monsters within cinematic moments that last for way too long. I've had a similar feeling with Astral Chain. You're a cop, you have to pick up litter, respect the crossings, do platforming, do combat, and investigate. So many things, but why not just focus on 2 or 3 of those elements at a time? Especially seeing how complicated the combat is. I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty good at controlling 2 characters at a time. Nintendo Land Animal Crossing Sweet Day was my jam, but this title does it in a way that is so cumbersome. The inputs are not natural and the actions you have to undertake are too many for such quick enemies. Which brings me to my next point. A lot of the things in that game are things they undertook before but succeeded in the past. The blade mode from MGSR is present, but not as good. What worked was that you had to do it when enemies were weakened, which allowed you for the time to make precision cuts. Moving things would stop just before hitting you. Here, you have to do it on moving targets. You can slow down time, but not for long, and you can't move while doing it. Pressing a button, then the right stick is not natural. You get hit 1,000 times before you get to do anything. That's alarming to me because, to be honest, when you really think about it, Platinum has not been doing great since 2014. After Bayonetta 2, they released tie-in movie games. Okay, maybe a footnote to pay the bills, but afterwards they had Star Fox Zero and Star Fox Guard. Nier Automata was the only project that had little to no asterisk. Astral Chain comes after, and a remaster of Wonderful 101, but then more issues crop up with Bayo 3, and the soon forgotten Babylon Fall that its servers closed down. The only game that is showing promise after playing the demo is, ironically, the Bayonetta spin-off. Look, with all this in mind, don't you think that Platinum might be stuck in a loop? They release a great game with a great art style, but there's too many playstyle variants and a lack of refinement in the gameplay that adds up and leads to frustration. Their game design has not really changed since the Clover Studio days, it's the execution. In Beautiful Joe, you would play a submarine segment for 10 minutes at the most. In Bayonetta, you're doing that motorcycle level for 20 minutes, and don't even get me started on the instant deaths. Platinum gets lost in the style and the gimmick, and doesn't focus on the fundamentals enough. Hideki Kamiya is not the only one in charge, but his style of cool over practical is shared by others in the company clearly. If you notice the games on which Shinji Mikami served on, they're cool, they have a sense of style, but are a lot more sterile and practical. God Hand had a depth of mechanics, but the rooms in that game were giant empty squares. Nothing got in the way of the combat. Platinum, on the other hand, without his input, would fill that room with platforming, monsters attacking you out of cutscenes, and instant death QTEs. Now with the reception of Bayo 3, who knows what's going to happen. As good as the Cereza spin-off is, who's going to buy a prequel that nobody asked for of a character who had a lukewarm last game, and to boot, it comes out at full price. As of writing, the game just came out, so we'll have to wait and see how it's received. Don't forget it gets released in the same month as Resident Evil 4 Remake. It's a recipe for disaster. We've come a long way since MGSR. I really wonder if the context of that production helped make it a great game. It was a game that they salvaged and had limited time to release. They had to focus on the main gameplay loop, shave the fat, and have good performances. It was a solid 60 FPS. The levels were bland, but the sacrifice was worth it.
It seems I'm unfashionably late, but I'm ready to give you everything you want.
I appreciate that this studio really tries new things, especially in the era of looter shooters, but they really need to start focusing on one idea at a time to not overshadow the rest. I'd rather have these weird but unique games than another bland time sinker. However, something needs to change. If not, we're going to end up with more gimmick games. You can be sure Star Fox Zero ain't getting a re-release.